Rob, that new intro, it reminds me of like Wednesday morning after my Tuesday night sport league when I wake up and I just see the rubble of what I did the previous night of my piss poor bowling, but the sweep the rack flag is planted amongst the rubble, waving strongly still. It's great, great metaphor there, Rob.
Well, the metaphor was actually supposed to be like the rubble is actually like the bowling industry. And I like that.
You know what? I equated to myself. Okay. All right, I was way off the mark. I'm sorry. Sometimes with my English degree, I get a little too deep in things, you know.
Hey, whatever floats your boat, man. It's the holidays. If you think it was for your bowling game, then we could go that route too.
All right, good. So, Rob, we're back. We're back for the people. We're providing content for the people, man. Like we're putting it out there right now. We've already put out a couple good interviews. We're gonna have another one today, I'm sure. And we're going to continue forward with a few more, especially before the PBA Tour season gets started here. Trying to give the people what they want, trying to get the players that the people want to hear from, Rob. And let's be honest, that's the players that had great years last year, won big events last year, had statement seasons last year, right? And I think our guest today is somebody that checks all three of those boxes, no question.
Yeah, I mean, first time guest, Chris Vai. Can't wait to talk to him because, he's got a lot of industry experience and knowledge too outside of bowling, right? So maybe we'll talk a little bit about that. But what a great year he had. You know, Mike, it's really easy doing the interviews with the pros who've had great years the past years. We should look into bringing guests on that were terrible, that had like terrible years. I think that might be a better interview, but I don't know how many people would want to come on that, fell like 50th or 60th in the world.
Yeah, but typical of bowlers, they probably all have someone or something to blame. No, like it would be the lane guy or the bowling balls or this or that or the other. All right, So enough delay. Let's bring in Chris Vai. Let's bring him on, Rob. Chris, welcome to Sweep the Rack for the first time. Right off, we appreciate the time. I know a lot of you guys are busy. Right now, not only is it the holiday season, but Rob, we forgot about this. Tour trials, or not tour trial. What am I saying? Team USA trials are coming up. Team USA trials are right after the New Year. Chris, you bowling?
I am not bowling, but first of all, Thanks for having me. I do appreciate it. No, I am not bowling Team USA trials. I am submitting a resume, but with how crazy busy we are at the shop right now. It's just not really feasible for me to take another week off and be out there.
We're going to leave the recent Weber Cup experience off the resume. All right,
yeah, that's fine.
All right, I'm going to leave it at that. I'm going to let you go on that. I'm going to let you go. All right, so you're in though, Rob. He's in, right?
I mean, if his resume gets denied, then I don't know who the hell is actually
looking at the resumes.
Yeah.
Yeah, true. You're in. Okay.
just might as well pack your bags, buy the ticket to wherever.
Yeah, you're good. I mean, it makes sense that he wouldn't bowl. You know what? Like you win the U.S. Open, you perform the way you did last year. You finish third in the PBA Player of the Year voting. If he wants to be a part of Team USA, he should undoubtedly be a part of Team USA. I mean that's a no-brainer. So okay, Chris, it's your first time here. We usually ask our guests the first time they come on. Just for the people that listen to our podcast and may not have seen you in other places or followed you in other places, give us a little bit of your background in the game.
Yeah, so I've pretty much grown up in a bowling alley. I wasn't necessarily fortunate enough that my parents owned one, like a lot of bowlers that make it to the tour level. But my dad bowled pretty much every night of the week, so I was always there watching him, paying attention. And I just kind of got invested. I started loving the sport from a really young age, and he let me stick around and bowl a game after league every once in a while. So that's just kind of where it started, and it hasn't really gone away since.
Why was he so into it?
It was just a family thing. I mean, his parents bowled. He bowled with his brother, he bowled with his uncle, bowled with his dad. So he just really enjoyed it. He was really good as well. So I think that kind of helped, and it was kind of like his version of gambling.
Okay, all right, no, that makes total sense. All right, so you're a bowling alley kid then. You know, like many of us, you know, that
like
it's
me,
the same.
I was the same way.
Yeah, Rob, the way he told that story honestly reminded me a lot of Bill. Right, when I went to Levittown Lanes to start practicing Levittown Lanes with Bill, which was his home center, his whole family was there every day. His uncle was there every day. His dad was there every day. His grandfather was there every day. His grandmother stopped in. His mom would stop by. So like, yeah, it was a family thing. And Chris, I think you make a good point too, that a lot of the tour players you do see today, and we've talked about this on the podcast previously, they do have a connection to the bowling industry because it's that hard to make it out there, where if you don't have a really deep connection to the bowling industry and you're not making serious money off of the industry itself, it's really tough to survive out there. So we like to see that. We like to see the guys who come from that background. What about in terms of junior bowling? Did you grow up in the Ohio area, and what was there to compete in that was high level?
Yeah, so I grew up, I was in Ohio, my entire life. I grew up in Springfield, pretty small town. So locally, there wasn't really much. We had, the county tournament, every year that, there's probably 20 kids enter. So it wasn't really, much competition wise. But once I got a little bit older, we have JTBAs here, which, a couple of the Pennsylvania people come over. We got some Michigan people that come down. And I bowled against EJ. He came over from the Indiana, and some Kentucky people came as well. So not too much, but we had, it was good competition. It was probably 10 or so tournaments a year that we would get to go bowl. They'd be on sport shots, and they were, basically kind of like what we bowl in the summer series, like qualifying, and then we would have match play after, and then usually it was a bracket style format, but I think it was really good. Basically competition for, pretty much anything we bowled nationally, because I really never started bowling the bigger tournament stuff until I was, I don't know, junior in high school, sophomore in high school, something like that. So, I mean, I was pretty much just bowled local up until I was probably about 16 or 17 when I started bowling some bigger tournaments.
So what I heard in that answer there, Rob, and I know you probably picked up on this as well, you've been bowling on sport shots for a long time.
Yeah. I mean, I've tried to bowl pretty much everything I could. So it's probably been about 15 years now that I've been bowling on sport shots. I mean, I remember when they first came out on the with all the animal pattern names. That was kind of, when I guess that's really kind of when everyone really got introduced to them. The tour always bowled on harder stuff, but it was never really available to the public. And once they came up with those, I guess, animal pattern names, it was kind of when, there used to be some PBA experience leagues, and stuff like that. And, my friends and I growing up, we were always trying to find, the hardest lane condition possible. And, that's how we got better.
Rob,
Yep.
15 or 16-year-old you has the opportunity to bowl on real PBA style conditions. What's your reaction?
What an advantage that was. When we were 15, 16 years old, they didn't even have those animal patterns at that time. Like we didn't even know what a high roller pattern was, or
no, you didn't even know what sport versus recreation was.
There was no separation. We bowled on whatever the local house put out for us as a junior. Some of them were really tough because of just the way of the bowling center. Some of them were really easy, but there was none of that. And what you had growing up, I would have loved to have that as a 14, 15-year-old. I think I would have been a lot more successful as an adult bowler than I was having to really learn as I went. Like Bill kind of was the same thing.
Would have totally reset your mindset on what you needed to do, and probably humbled us a lot, Rob. Probably humbled us a lot and showed us like we had a lot more to learn than at that time we thought we had to learn.
Mike, the bet I took at the high roller the first 2 years, money-wise, my sponsor wanted to kill me. I mean, I was losing thousands of dollars trying to learn on his dime. I appreciate it, Luigi, man. Thanks if you're listening. I doubt it, but
true. Chris, how'd you develop the two-handed style?
It started from, when I first started bowling. I literally started bowling games when I was 18 months old. So I think it's a pretty similar story to how Belmo started bowling. Just super young, not really able to pick up the ball, normal or traditionally. and it just kind of turned into what it is today. It just never really changed. I never, started putting my thumb in it. It was just always a couple fingers, and just went after it and had fun.
Well, Chris, I got to follow up, Mike, but real quick here, because was there anybody at that time when you were a kid that was trying to correct you and say you're bowling the wrong way? Because they actually did that with me. I started as a two-handed when I was a kid that age, but they didn't let me do it. The bowling I said, "Oh, you can't do that. You're going to ruin the lanes," and they made me go traditional. So is there anybody outside of it, except for maybe even your family, did they say you got to start bowling one-handed?
Oh yeah, absolutely. I mean, pretty much everywhere I went, anytime I bowled, there was somebody saying that, that's not the right way to do it. You're not doing it correctly, whatever it may be. And we actually had a lot of people, kind of get into my family's head about that, to where it was like, he's never going to be successful. He's going to be injured all the time. Just the typical things that people are saying about the two-handed game. And eventually got to a point where my mom kind of sat me down and was like, "Hey, we probably do need to switch you, if you want to keep bowling." And yeah, I did try one-handed for a little bit. I hated it. I didn't have any fun, and I actually stopped bowling for a couple of years. It was probably about 2 or 3 years where I stopped bowling and tried to pursue a career in basketball. But my 4'7", 87-pound body frame at age 13 just wasn't really built for the NBA. So that didn't last too long. And I actually got really lucky. My mom started working on Saturdays, and obviously, we bowl on Saturday mornings. And some friends from high school asked me to bowl with them again. I was like, "Man, I haven't bowled in a couple of years. I don't really know." And they're like, we just need one more person. Just come, bowl with us and have fun." I was like, "All right, whatever." And, obviously my mom not being there, family wasn't there. I just bowled two-handed. It's like, whatever. I did what I wanted to. I had fun. And, I was averaging 205 or whatever. And that was about 80 pins better than my 120 average when I was one-handed. And my mom was like, "Wow, it took a couple of years off. You got pretty good." And I was like, "Yeah, I don't know what to tell you. Yeah, I just started practicing and got pretty good." And then finally, she didn't work on Saturday. Came and watched me bowl. So from that point on, she was like, as long as you're having fun, and that's really all that matters. So been two-handed since that point. So
no, that's great, man. You remind me, because I lose sight of it a lot of times because I look at the game so seriously, but it is about having fun. And that is how a lot of people get into the game, as we know it. And the two-handed side of the game, I think for beginners probably does make it a lot more fun. I could totally understand that. I can grasp how that is probably true. And yeah, but I'll tell you, as a high school coach, I switched a couple kids from two-handed to one-handed. I did.
Mike,
I know,
and keeping him down, but you're keeping him down here.
I know, and let me tell you, one of them ended up going to Wichita State as a one-handed bowler and was super talented, and the other one, both of them were very good two-handed, and it was at a time where two-handed bowling was already becoming very popularized, but really it was my lack of knowledge about it that I was like, well, look, I can show you how to do it this way, but I can't really show you how to do it the other way, not the whole thing, because I don't really know it that well. But you're right, it is about the fun, and it's interesting that a player who has ascended to where you're at in the game, Rob, to hear him talk about how he was in high school having fun with his buddies bowling, not taking it super seriously, not taking that route of oh, everything has to be as serious as it can be. And obviously it worked out for him. But Chris, it sounds like you're an athlete too, though.
Yeah, I like to think of myself as an athlete.
Okay.
I played pretty much every sport besides soccer growing up.
Okay.
It was pretty much everything was available besides soccer in my town. So, I played basketball, played baseball, traveled for both of those, different places, played on some pretty good teams. But yeah, bowling was just kind of always a go-to, and just kind of it was the one that was most natural to me, just because I had been doing it for so long.
Hey, Mike, I feel like Chris is the type of guy where he's kind of like under the radar athlete, where he looks the part of someone who's very intelligent and wants to behind a computer, but then you put him out in the field and he'll like run circles around you on the basketball court.
He's the guy. I was gonna say he's the guy who gets picked like next to last in the pickup game, and then when the game starts, he's out there crossing people over,
100%.
draining threes, dunking on people and shit, going crazy,
100%.
right? And it's funny
100%.
because, like I just said, he was in the game almost to enjoy himself, right? And look at where he's gotten with the game. Rob, we know dozens of people that took things like life or death with bowling, okay? Like whether they bowled well or did not bowl well dictated how the rest of their week was going to go. And, they never get to that level, right? So you combine the athleticism, with the fun aspect of it and him kind of figuring things out on his own, mix in a little bit of the sports side of the game and the knowledge there. And, it's just interesting to me. All right, so on to more recent things. Go ahead.
Add just one thing. I will add that I do have the record for the highest vertical that's ever been recorded at the ITRC. So that's just a little tidbit for you guys. So you guys were right.
Facts. Look at this. See, we're getting the inside info here. We are getting the inside info here. Okay.
We need to see that jump next show. You got to jump over the ball return next show or something.
No, don't jump over the ball return. No.
I don't know if that would be best with a slide pad on, but we'll try to get something else going.
Give Randy that tidbit though. Make sure Randy has that tidbit. I'd like to see how he drops that in a show or uses it.
100%.
All right. Yeah. On to more recent things, man. We listen. We were aware of you well before you hit the tour. I mean, you had a very accomplished college career and singles college career. You were on Junior Team USA, et cetera. So, like, I had seen your name around for a long time, and when your name hit the tour, it wasn't surprising to see it there. But let's be honest. Like last year, you put your flag in the ground and you said, "Yo, Chris Vi is here." 200-300s on TV, wins the U.S. Open, which Rob, we all know, U.S. Open is. It's a real badge of honor that these guys wear because of how tough they are, right? You finished third in the Player of the Year voting. Put your flag in the ground. Announce your arrival here. How you viewing yourself this year? We view you as a top 5 player going into this year, somebody who is a threat for Player of the Year, perhaps. We did a skit a couple weeks ago where Rob and I were buying and selling stock of different bowlers. And we bought stock in you heavy because we view you this way. We feel like the bowling world, the bowling fans view you this way. Do you see it the same?
Yeah, absolutely. I think last year was a big confidence builder. And even right before COVID shut down, I felt like, I was bowling, some of my best I ever have. I just think it's, a couple of changes that I've made to my physical game. But mostly it's just the mental game for me is so much better now. And the bad games aren't quite as bad. And I'm able to recover and just kind of see the lane a little bit more clear because, I'm thinking a little bit more clearly. So, yeah, absolutely. I think I'm one of the top 5 bowlers in the world right now. And, I feel like, any tournament I can go into, I can win. So now it's just, going out there and actually doing it.
So, Chris, let me follow here because that's interesting. You made an interesting point that I don't hear a lot of players talk about. I mean, maybe the top tier players, but not players really looking to improve their game. You talked about your mental game, and I know how important that is, right? Because you're battling yourself pretty much all tournament, right? Your thoughts and what you think and how you feel. How do you work on your mental game? I mean, are you reading books? Did you go see like a sports psychologist? Can you kind of dive down a little bit into that?
Yeah, I mean those two are great options. Personally, I watch some motivational videos. And really it's hard because it's so easy to read, a positive book, or it's so easy to watch a positive video. Like, oh, I can do that. And then, pocket 7-10, 4-9, a couple of bad shots in a row. All of a sudden you got 30 in the 4th, and then it's not so easy anymore.
I'm tearing the book in half and I'm throwing it in the trash to vent my frustration.
Yeah, I'm kicking shit, dropping F-bombs.
For me, those things just didn't translate very well. And I tried them, and it was just like, I can do this, but like when the time comes where I actually need it, to me, I just couldn't translate it for myself. So me, it's, I don't know. I feel like I'm a really patient person, and I was always a bit of a perfectionist. I have that kind of that OCD type personality where I want everything to be perfect. I want to make sure that, I'm throwing the ball the absolute best. So even if it was like, that was a pretty good shot and it didn't do the right thing, it's like, no, like I can throw it better than that. I don't need to move. I'll just throw it better. And, it's not always how it works. And so just kind of being able to accept like quality shots that don't have to be quite perfect, and just kind of accepting those and trying to say like, oh, like that was good enough that it should have done something else. So let's try to make something else work. So just kind of being more honest with myself and just trying to be overall more prepared. I just felt like a lot of times I didn't know what ball to go to next. I didn't know what move to make next. Just because I was so far in my head, for a couple frames, then I would get behind it because, the lanes move incredibly fast on tour. It's really like no other place that you could possibly think of. And, if you're, 4 or 5 frames behind it, if you're not saying, oh shit, I need to be 2 arrows further left, then, you could be 2-3 games behind. And obviously you can't do that against the best in the world. So
yeah,
just being more honest with myself and just making sure I'm more prepared, and knowing what I need to do next.
Yeah, I mean, essentially, it's like playing chess, right? When you've been playing checkers, and that's how I look at it. Where the best in the game are playing chess. They're looking at what they're going to move, transition, breakdown. Like they're making those moves ahead. When a lot of the amateur people are only focusing on what's in front of them instead of looking 2, 3, 4 moves ahead of them. And I feel like that's why someone like Chris and a lot of these top tier guys are where they're at because of that fact.
Yeah, for sure. Well said on both ends. Chris, how are you preparing for this upcoming year? You practicing a lot? You drilling balls? What have you been doing? You bowling competitions? What have you had going on that you're getting ready for this upcoming season?
Yeah, just been a lot of practice. I haven't really been bowling too many competitive events, which is not normal for me necessarily, just because, like I said, being in the shop, it's been crazy busy. But I've been able to get on the lanes, practice a little bit. I just bowled an over under 50 with Walter down in Houston.
Saw
that. So that was kind of the first competition I really had for. Well, I did bowl the Swiss out in California with some buddies, but really since the Weber Cup, it's just kind of been those 2 events. So I've just been kind of wind down a little bit, but at the same time making sure I'm still staying sharp, and trying to get ready for the travel of the upcoming season.
You feel sharp though?
Yeah, I feel good.
Okay, how was it bowling with Walter Ray?
It was interesting. It was really interesting because, I mean, obviously, like, when he started bowling, the game was one way, and the game today is so different. And trying to have conversations with him and talk about what moves I'm seeing, maybe what I think he may need to do, what I think I may need to do. Sometimes it was really difficult because we just do not see the lane the same way whatsoever. Obviously he likes to play really straight, and we were bowling on short pattern, so it kind of played into his wheelhouse a little bit. But at the same time, once they got chopped up and some urethane started pushing down, we saw the moves that we needed to make very differently. So to a point, it was just kind of like, you know what, you do what you got to do, I'll do what I got to do, and we'll see where we end up.
So hold on a minute. So he asked you to bowl, but he wasn't two-handed it himself?
If we weren't bowling on short, maybe. But
okay.
With the short being out there, I don't think that was in play.
I mean, what is that like though, having pretty much, and I wouldn't say pretty much, but having one of the GOATs, one of the all-time greats, ask like to bowl with you in a doubles tournament? I mean, is that like surreal at a certain time where you're like, oh my God, I can't believe I'm bowling with this guy? He's like, I grew up watching him like on TV every week.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, it was crazy to just, have him text me and be like, hey, do you want to bowl doubles? I mean, first of all, just him texting me in general is pretty crazy. I've had a couple of those, like, when I won the US Open, Norm texted me, and I was just like, dude, it's like, Norm's my idol, like forever, always will be.
Mine too.
Yeah. So like, it's just crazy to to kind of be at the level that I've gotten to, and to have the connections that I do, to actually be able to have relationships with these guys, and for some of them to actually want to bowl with me. It's crazy. It is kind of like a dream come true from watching them growing up, winning all those titles, wanting to be in their shoes, to now being in their shoes and competing with them. It's pretty cool.
If you're a fan of Norm Duke, this is just some inside advice from Sweep the Rack podcast. If you're a fan of Norm Duke and you want to run into him on a regular, you could go down to a certain area of Florida, rent a property. There's a good chance he might be your landlord. And then you could call him every day and be like, hey, the sink's dripping, or the toilet's running, or this. And then he's got to come every day because he's your landlord. True. So little advice there if you want to get in touch with Norm. I mean, you probably have other channels to do that, but I'm just saying if you want to. All right, so we talked about expectations for this year. We talked about your preparation for this year. Let's talk just, you don't have to give us everything, but give us one or two goals you have going into this year.
I think a goal for me every year is just to make the playoffs. I know it probably sounds pretty low or pretty basic for the type of year that I had last year, but I just think the playoffs, it shows consistency. I think it shows having a solid year, from top to bottom. So it's probably going to be one of my goals for every year that I continue to bowl on tour. And then obviously a more aspiring goal is to win a second title, knowing that I gave myself plenty of opportunities last year, and just performed okay on the shows. I felt like I've bowled fairly well on my telecast. Just have a hard time winning, but giving myself those opportunities, I think it makes me a little more comfortable each time that I'm out there. So hoping to give myself some more this year and come away with another title.
Yeah, I feel like there were some situations where if a few breaks went different ways, your season could have been even better than it was last year. So I feel like going into this year, if you find yourself on likely the same number of shows, and those breaks do go your way, I don't know, you could kind of rewrite that almost. But okay, all right, interesting. We love the PBA playoffs here at Sweep the Rack. We feel like the PBA, and they kind of have, but we would like to see the PBA even go further to make that the main piece of the end of tour season. Like last year, you had the $250,000 prize for the event in the beginning of the season, and we understood that was because of money left over and COVID situations, and they didn't know how long they were going to be able to keep things going, et cetera. But we would love to see that reversed and see the PBA playoffs be that main piece, because you're right, you do have to bowl good all year to get there. You do have to perform at a certain level all year to get there. And with the format changes that they're going to do, kind of lengthening it a little bit, you might see the cream rise to the top even a little bit more in that event than you have. And let's be honest, it already has been that way over the last few years that they've had it. But we really enjoy that event too. All right, Rob, go ahead. You want to ask? You have an important question to ask him.
Yeah, I got a really important question because we had Kyle on our last interview series episode, and I wasn't surprised, but I found out that he actually he's not the most eligible bachelor anymore on tour. He's taken. He's got a girlfriend. Of course, I mean, when you have a year that he had, I mean, he's probably women are swimming up in his DMs. Yeah, not surprising. So, Chris, I mean, I don't know what your status is, but are you looking at the most eligible bachelor, the new Kyle coming into this year?
I don't think so. I think it might be something in the works. So,
look at that.
Got to keep those things a little more private. But yeah, I'm not sure that title is mine either.
So we're not going to see you in any flow bowling videos in a hotel room with your fancy socks on, getting your hair ready for Valentine's Day. Is that what you're telling us?
Even if I was, I don't think that would be me. I'm just I don't have the personality that Kyle does, so I'm not sure that would fly.
Mike, we got to ask around now and find out who we got to find out. Like,
yeah, we'll get that info. And now what I want to see is I want to see a Kyle versus Chris match. Several matches on TV. I want the outlandish personality against the reserve personality, the two-handers. That's a matchup I'm going to be looking for going into the season.
I think we've had a couple.
Yeah, you have.
Yeah, I think
you got there. That could be a developing rivalry. Yeah, that's where I'm going. You have that contrast. You definitely have that contrast for sure.
We keep making those shows. I'm cool with it.
Well, we talked to him. I can tell you that he plans on still making a lot of shows this year. So it's going to be a possibility. I did some research. I saw that you won your team, your school, your high school won multiple Ohio State high school bowling championships. Is this true?
Yes. Yeah. We won back to back my junior and senior year.
All right. Well, around here at Sweep the Rack, they call me the GOAT of high school bowling in New Jersey. Okay.
He calls himself the GOAT of high school Jersey. I don't know anybody else that calls him that.
Other people call me this too. Okay. And I just want to ask, like, when you won these, because we actually won back-to-back state championships. We're the only program in New Jersey state history to do that in the current format. But,
here we go.
What I wanted to ask quickly was, what kind of numbers were you guys putting up in your high school matches? What are we talking?
So
we talking 5 players, 5 bowlers?
Yeah. So we had 5 bowlers. We bowled 2 regular team games, and then we bowled, I think it was 4 Baker games. I think were our formats. So it was kind of the equivalent of almost 3 full team games.
Right. Regular 5-man lineup game. What were you putting up?
We had shot 1,300 a couple of different times. But I mean, we were pretty. We were pretty solid.
How easy are they out there in Ohio? 1,300.
Oh, that's the first thing you bring up is the lane conditions.
Correct.
You can never get any credit nowadays.
I'm such a hater. I know I'm a hater. I'm such a hater.
People 1,300. Oh, the lanes must have been easy. Like that's just God. I hate that way of thinking these days.
I think we had a couple of 3,200s.
32. Okay.
Yeah. So I think we had the state record for a while. I have no idea. I haven't kept up with it for a while, and actually since. So when I bowled, there was only one division in Ohio high school bowling. So we bowled, my school had 700 kids. We bowled schools that had 3,000.
Okay.
Just because there weren't as many programs as there are now. So that's 2 divisions in Ohio now. But yeah, we were pretty solid. We had a lot of the state records. We had a lot of really good bowlers. So I would have put our team up against pretty much any other high school team in the country.
Yes,
I'll tell you what, I felt the same way about my teams back then too. That's why I asked. I thought, well, if they did that, they must have been pretty good, and if they had him, they must have been pretty good. But would have loved to have seen that matchup. Would have been an interesting hypothetical matchup. But 3,200 for 2 games and 4 Bakers. I gotta say, it's a pretty high number. It's an impressive number. All right, we took enough of your time. We're gonna get you out of here. Who are you plugging, man? Who's supporting you? What companies are you working with? We know Storm, obviously. But plug them too. Who else you working with? Who's supporting you out there?
Yeah, obviously, thanks for having me, guys. You do really appreciate it. You guys do a great job with the podcast. But for my companies, obviously Storm, Turbo, Apparel EFX. Those are the companies that have been tried and true since day one. But I'm actually working with a sports agent now. I know you guys have probably seen some logos on my jerseys of LWS. It's a taxing. Payroll accounting firm, which I have an accounting degree, so it's another little tidbit for you guys there. But
that's a good nickname, the accountant, Chris, the accountant vibe, man. I like that, dude. That's awesome.
There you go. So they're from my hometown. They're super supportive, and the owner actually started his own sports agency, and he's so he's now my official agent. We've already been working with trying to get a couple of different companies with some more sponsorships. So it's pretty cool. Obviously shout out to him. His name's Blake Schaefer. He has, I think it's Schaefer Sports Management, I think is what he's going with.
Okay.
I can't remember the actual title. Probably should look that up, but so he's been super supportive, super helpful. So obviously just, want to thank them for always believing in me and, keep on riding this wave.
All right, two things. Number one, awesome that you have a sports. We just talked to Kyle about that in our interview with him, and how important it is for you guys to have that support behind you to get some of these things done, because you have to concentrate on the bowling, and that's hard enough, and you have to stay sharp, and you have to mentally prepare to be out there. So to serve all these other roles is somewhat tough. So good move on that. If you could get us the sports agent, we'd love to have him on to talk a little sports agents talk, maybe wrap it in with some bowling. So I might reach out about that. And what new storm ball is going down the lane a lot for you as of late?
Oh man, the new one as of late. I've drilled the Nova. The Nova is really, really good. But man, I've been loving the global stuff. Obviously, the stuff they've been making has been really good. That Ultimate Reality, it's a beast, man. I think it's going to be really usable on tour next year. So I'm looking forward to that one, and then we might see that Wolverine get some play later in the blocks. So we'll see. But man, the stuff they're making right now is really good. So obviously, I want to shout out my pro shop too. Almost forgot that.
Yeah, go for it.
Absolutely, don't forget that.
Which I'm taking a little break from right now. TV Bowling Supply. We're here in Columbus, Ohio. So obviously, if you guys are ever in the area, make sure to stop by. Say hello, and we'll try to get you guys taken care of. You're
definitely going to get professional service there.
Absolutely.
Stress on professional.
Yes.
For sure. Absolutely. So go see these guys if you're in the area. Chris, we appreciate the time. We're also going to hit you up about anonymously though. Pro shop worst of the week stories. That's something else we do around here. We love to hear the pro shop stories behind the scenes. So we'll hit you up about that too. But listen, we appreciate the time. Safe travels. Good luck this season. Bowl well. We'll be watching Rob again. We'll probably be betting on him at some time throughout the season. So don't do us wrong. All right. If we have the money on you, show up and come through on us. Come through for us on that. But thank you again. Good luck, man. And we'll be watching to see what happens.
I appreciate it. Thanks, guys.
No doubt. Thanks for the time. Rob. We're top 5. We're going top 5 all over the place.
Yeah, I love the fact that he did the interview in the bowling alley. You see people in the behind him. If you're listening,
says a lot, Rob.
It does.
Says
a lot, in the bowling alley, right?
Spending a lot of time in the bowling alley, Rob.
I get and the one thing that sticks out to me of the interview the most is obviously just his dedication, right, and how he's really focused on the bowling, but Mike, he hires sports agent too. And I feel like that's kind of a new thing that we've been hearing from these pros that we haven't heard in prior interviews, right? And Mike, that is a great, great thing to hear, that the pros are kind of taking it upon themselves to get paid in other aspects and not just the bowling check, that they're not guaranteed every week, right? Or every other week or whenever they bowl. They're, have the ability now with the ratings for bowling being up, Fox Sports and all the television coverage that bowling has been getting in the last year. It's definitely a time for these guys to hire sports agents to reach out to get their own sponsorships. And that's a really important piece to surviving on tour. Chris has a pro shop he runs. I don't know if it's just the one pro shop in Columbus. He could have multiple pro shops, right? Now he has all the sponsorships. He's got an agent working for him, and he's got the checks coming in, right? It makes for a good living as a, I don't know how old Chris is, probably in his late 20s, maybe, around that area.
29.
But that's a good living for a guy who, is in his late 20s. But I think that's an important piece that we're hearing these days now from a lot of the younger guys.
Yeah. It's awesome. It's awesome to see. I hope they all do well with it. Right. We've seen it, right? We've seen it a little bit. Like we've talked about Sean Rash here before and his efforts with sponsorships. We've seen it with Belmo, and some of the different things that he's gotten involved with. But as I said to Chris at the end of the interview, like the issue there is that those guys were doing a lot of that legwork themselves, right? Whereas if you have somebody doing it for you, it makes it a lot easier to just go out and perform, right? Which again is hard enough. So yeah, it's great to see those guys be able to have those opportunities. And what I think about, Rob, when they bring that up is like, not so much we've talked and you have brought up like national opportunities, big opportunities, right? We just talked to Marshall Holman, and he brought up his sponsorship with Nike, right? And listen, we would all love that. That would be tremendous for the game in general.
How realistic is that, though, right? Like,
okay, but I also think about it on a small scale of like local, even like hyper local. You know, if you have a sports agent who's working with you in your direct local area, whether that be the town you live in, the county you live in, the state you live in, right? I think there's a lot of opportunities there that one opportunity might be a home run in terms of a financial windfall. But if you add up 10 of those opportunities, then there might be something there for the players. So it's good to see them go down these different routes. I mean, you know, Chris is also involved with the house and Brad and Kyle, and they're marketing through that. So again, that's another platform that they can do that through, right? And that he can market himself through and promote things through. So it's awesome. It's great to see these guys kind of get these opportunities, and I hope bowling continues to build on that. I hope Bolero continues to build on that. Quite frankly, Rob, I'd love to see Bolero market some of these guys in their centers and in different ways, right, through their company that they can come up with. So great to see that some of these guys are making those moves, though. In terms of the bowling side of things, interesting to hear about the mental game. I agree with you. You kind of highlighted that in the interview, right? It's interesting. A lot of times you hear about more of the physical things, ball reaction and adjusting to the lane conditions and adjustments. And Chris brought up some of those things as well. But, you know, he was very clear that the main piece that he felt was his struggle was the mental piece. Yeah,
it's such a big part. And if you're listening to this right now and you ever bowled, and I'm not talking league, I'm talking like if you ever bowled a longer format tournament, like an 8-game tournament, a 10-game tournament, a 2-day tournament, right? The thought process that you go through, it's literally a battle all day with your own thoughts and what goes on in your mind and what your conscious is telling you in certain situations. And if you can learn how to turn that to your advantage, when that key point in a tournament comes where you have to throw a good shot, and you always have a certain points in a tournament where the tournament goes to either great or it goes to shit. And it could be early in a tournament, it could be late in a tournament. It's those certain points where if you can calm down your nerves and you can make the best shot you can, and you could also make the best decisions you can, you know, it's such an advantage to have. Physically, Mike, these guys are talented, but, you know, a lot of the regional players too, a lot of the great regional players are just as physically talented as a lot of the guys who are in the top 15. But what separates them is their knowledge of equipment and their mental game. And he talked about it, like being, you know, and I brought up chess. You know, a lot of people who bowl today that are amateurs, they're league bowlers, they're playing checkers, Mike. They're thinking of what to do now. They're too worried about what their strategy is for the next shot, when in reality, the pros and the guys who are in the top 10 are at the mental aspect now, or the mental game, where they are thinking 2, 3, 5 frames a game, 2 games ahead on what the shot's going to break down, what the transition's going to look like, what the next pair is, where they're going, right? Like there's so much different thoughts that go on through your mind during the tournaments that, Mike, a mental game is huge. And I wouldn't surprise me if I heard a lot of these guys are starting to go see sports psychologists, you know, reading books, watching YouTube videos, you know, getting into meditation, yoga type stuff. You know, I think it's really important. So I really like bringing that up because you don't hear about that a lot. Okay. All right, Rob, we'll wrap it up for the people. We appreciate it, the people's time. We appreciate Chris's time. Awesome to hear from another player, you know, who had a great year last year, and hear their thoughts going into the PBA Tour season here. Check out the website, sweeptherackbowling.com. Check us out on social media. He's at BrooklynRob11. I'm at the 215th. Email us, sweeptherack@gmail. Hit us up. Everybody have a good one, and hit that subscribe button. Hit that subscribe button on YouTube. Help us out, and be aware of the content we're putting out, because we're going to keep it coming. All right, Rob, have a good one. We'll catch up. You too, Mike.
Thanks, folks.
Later, guys.
You are now listening to Sweep the Rack podcast featuring Brooklyn